Piamgbaa'S did not grow up with illusions about life. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Karoma, made sure of that. It began from his childhood, where the rules were clear and non-negotiable, being, stand on your own feet, learn fast, respect people, and never take anyone for granted, no matter how small or powerful they may seem. His father, Karuba, repeated that last line so often that it became a special memory, something beyond mere advice and more like a life's code. That code followed young Piamgbaa'S everywhere. While an undergraduate at the Rivers State University, it showed up early. While many students treated lectures as a hurdle, Piamgbaa'S treated coursework like a craft. Industrial ICT wasn't just a degree to him, it was his playground. He understood systems intuitively. How processes interacted with each other, how failures cascaded, how efficiency was never accidental. He didn't cram concepts or theories, he simply mastered knowledge and more or less owned the turf. Graduating with first-class honors felt less like luck and more like a confirmation that being sacrificially intentional pays. It was also during those undergraduate years that he met Piamgbaa'S Coco. Sharp-eyed, an African mangrove beauty, highly opinionated, disciplined, already deep into the rigors of medical school. Their bond grew quietly, without drama or noise. They watched each other struggle, grow, adapt. 3 years after she completed the compulsory Nigerian NYSC service, they stood before the church, family and friends, and formalized a partnership that had already been solid for years. Long before boardrooms and global projects, Piamgbaa'S obsession with technology had been obvious. As a boy, he dismantled radios, rewired fans, resurrected abandoned electronics others had written off as junk. He failed often, burnt circuits, cracked motherboards, a strange obsession to his loved ones. However, he never lingered on failure. He moved on, faster, smarter, curious about the next problem. His parents were naturally worried, but they also watched with quiet optimism that all of this will work for his overall good. 8 months after his NYSC experience, Diamond Spear Global Services sent him an email notification while he was delivering flavored corn pap for his mother Kaine. They were an oil and gas operations giant of global standing and didn't gamble on recruits. Their onboarding process was ruthless, layered, and data-driven. Yet Piamgbaa'S sailed through without the attendant anxiety. Interviews felt less like interrogations and became more like conversations. HR didn't need weeks to decide. It was obvious, he wasn't just trained, he was naturally wired for the work. At Diamond Spear, Piamgbaa'S thrived at his responsibilities. Projects landed on his desk in chaos and left in order. He earned respect without demanding it. Promotions came every 2 years, not as favors but as inevitabilities. International certifications relevant to his occupation followed. He received recognition that crossed international borders. However, by the 15th year, he was now a senior manager with influence, credibility, and a reputation for clean execution. Life at home and work was good. Then, it shifted. Diamond Spear's parent company, Mothercat Incorporated, announced a forthcoming vacancy, a global ICT strategy role overseeing transcontinental infrastructure. The timing was delicate. Piamgbaa'S team was already embedded in a high-stakes gas pipeline project spanning multiple countries. Delays were unacceptable. Errors were unforgivable. On paper, Piamgbaa'S was the perfect candidate. In reality, that made him dangerous. The sabotage didn't arrive loudly. It never does. First came subtle exclusions, meetings were rescheduled without notice given to him, decisions were now taken upstairs without his input. Then data anomalies appeared in project reports that had passed through hands other than his own. A procurement approval was delayed just long enough to cause a minor operational hitch, although a small variation, but accompanied with new costs in operations. Unknown to Piamgbaa'S, behind closed doors, a coalition had been formed. Members were colleagues threatened by his rise, executives who had godson candidates, and consultants with vested interests. Their plan was meticulous. They engineered a narrative where every fault, however manufactured, flowed upward to Piamgba. Email trails were manipulated. Version controls quietly altered. Tasks' responsibility was blurred until accountability collapsed neatly onto him. It was fail-proof, or so they thought. What they didn't account for was the code Piamgba lived by, being that he never took systems or people for granted. Months earlier, anticipating the political weight of the project, he had implemented parallel documentation protocols, independent audit logs, redundant backups stored across jurisdictions. Every decision was time-stamped. He made sure that every approval was traceable. He had silently developed a rugged cloud-based backup system for all his work. When the accusations surfaced, they came with confidence. A formal panel was inaugurated. Those who were to speak came prepared with PowerPoint slides. Calm voices explaining how oversight failures under his leadership had endangered timelines. Piamgba pretended to be shocked, but patiently listened quietly to all that was being spoken against him. To his accusers, it was a done deal. Then he asked for the floor and was given. After all, the damage had already been done, or so was consensus opinion in the office conference room that rainy morning. What followed was not a defense, it was a total dismantling of all the misinformation that they had invested time to come up with. He walked the panel through the systems. He showed original files alongside altered versions. Thereafter he highlighted the access logs and mapped decision points to individuals who had quietly rerouted the processes without due authorization. Something in the room shifted, and it was felt by all present. The information on the screens that Piamgba now put up told stories no one expected to hear. The sabotage collapsed under its own sophistication, and then it was silence, pure and unalloyed silence. The fallout of that meeting was massive, and by the end of the week, internal investigations were underway with strict instructions not to leave any stone unturned. Reassignments followed swiftly, and some resignations too. The cabal never anticipated this result, and was fully brought to its knees. And then came the much-anticipated call exactly 2 weeks after that eventful meeting. The global role wasn't offered with ceremony. It was just a direct message from the parent company's board. We need leadership that sees what others miss. Congratulations. Piamgba graciously accepted the offer and began another page in work, family and life. One beautiful Saturday morning, with the magnificent sunlight spilling across their living room floor, Piamgba was laughing as their 2 children argued over a game console. Piamgba, although in deep thoughts, watched from the doorway, coffee in hand, the noise of boardrooms replaced by the simple chaos of home. He had climbed without shortcuts. He had survived without bitterness. And the code his father taught him, never underestimate people, never abandon diligence, had carried him further than ambition ever could. Piamgba now knew without any iota of doubt that at the end, competence opens doors, but character decides who stays inside. It's great to know that you watched to this point. Kindly comment, like this video, tap the subscription button for notification of more videos as this. Remember to share this video among your family and friends. Thank you.